Hi, folks. Welcome to another edition of the Omnist Hour. I think I've got my microphone issues all sorted out now. I'm going to have a really good sound quality on this one for a change. Sorry if you've been trying to follow my podcasts and have trouble with that. I have a new microphone on the way, which should solve all the problems. But till then, I'm kind of stuck with this headset microphone that doesn't seem to always get plugged into the right place and get actually used as the microphone instead of the internal mic or whatever the one built into the webcam is. But speaking of, I have a new webcam today, which should be 1080p and be a much nicer quality for you. So if you have any commentary on that, you like it, you want to see more of it, well, that's what you're going to get from now on. Today's topic I'm going to call information tyranny. And if you've been following recent podcasts, you will have learned that I consider the cardinal karmic sin to be tyranny. And I thought, well, there are many kinds of tyranny, and folks may not be aware of all of them, especially in the modern age of information. And information tyranny is actually the most common type. Okay, so I'm going to delve into understanding information tyranny from its inception to how it happens nowadays, and hopefully give you some idea of what sort of sins are being committed these days by people who are building some karmic issues for their future, who are setting a path for themselves that is going to carry them very far afield from the universe of the creator of karma. Okay, so let's talk about some historical examples of information tyranny. Now, one that came to mind to me was the aspects of Norse mythology, which basically became the cult of Valhalla. If you know anything about this concept of Valhalla, you know that warriors were told that if they were good warriors, they went down fighting, defended their lord till the end, that they would end up feasting in the hall of Valhalla, where the heroes go, where all the girls are beautiful, they never run out of beer, and everybody gets to boast of their earthly exploits to the end of days. There probably is a heaven of that sort somewhere, because that idea, at least at one point, held a lot of power. And to some extent, it holds quite a bit of power today in the imaginations of the new cult of Viking worship, built around some of the shows that have been popular on streaming networks. And if you're one of the devotees of that show, you can relate to this. This is basically information tyranny. Using information to create an image of perfection that is very far from the reality that you're currently living, deceiving people with the hope of a better future, a better afterlife, based upon service to a very materialistic ideal. A materialistic ideal that serves the leader class that spreads this nonsense. Now, I'm not, like I said, there may be, in fact, Norse gods. There may be the heaven of Norse gods. They may all have their own heavens. I do not dispute that fact. What I do dispute is that none of those gods is very close to the first creator. And none of the people spreading that pseudo religion are, in fact, taking you in a direction that is necessarily going to be very good for your immortal soul. Okay, so what's another example? Well, here's another key one that many people may not realize: the whole idea of nirvana. This magical place of emptiness where you can go at the end of your life if you've been a good enough Buddhist, if you've meditated hard enough, if you've emulated the Buddha hard enough, you get to go to nirvana, where you don't have to have an ego anymore. You don't have to have any karma anymore. You don't have to have any more pain or suffering. This is kind of like the merry old land of Oz of roughly 3,000, 4,000 years ago, when the whole nonsense of Buddhism was invented. And yes, it is nonsense. It was invented as a way to mollify and control people. The fact that it was invented by a prince who supposedly gave up his empire so he could sit under the Bodhi tree. Okay, maybe it happened that way, maybe it didn't. I think it's far more likely, based upon what we know about history, that the inventor of Buddhism was a prince in a large Hindu world who was looking for a way to unite multiple kingdoms who each had their own favorite god, and thought, you know what, let's replace all those gods with an idea that, oh, that karma stuff's a bad idea. We don't want the gods to keep coming back in new forms. All they do is start new wars and create new bad karma. So let's kill karma by refusing to play the game. And thus Buddhism was born. And people were taught, oh, you just have to meditate my way, accept that this physical world is not reality. It's all an illusion. All this pain and suffering isn't real. If you just meditate well, you can make it all go away. And eventually you will die and you will go to nirvana. Or maybe even you can touch nirvana while you're alive and veg out enough that you don't have to experience any of the pain and suffering anymore. Okay, this is a convenient lie. It is a materialistic lie. Okay? Why is that true? Because it's all about what the soul wants while it's in physical incarnation. And yeah, every soul that's incarnated in a human form has some pain and suffering of some sort. They have things that aren't nice. They have to do a job they don't like. They have to find food. They have to deal with family issues. They have to deal with their government. There's a lot of things not to like about living in the, quote, real world, the physical world. And a cult designed around escaping from that is very popular. Escapist cults have been extremely popular. And if you look at the root of all human-created religion, they're all basically variations on some form of escapism. Directed escapism that creates a guru, a priest class that tells you how to escape, shows you how to do it, and in return, you give them access to your soul. You donate money to them, you serve them, you give them a tithe of your food, you become their willing servant, citizen of their kingdom, or the kingdom of the figurehead that they give you to be your emperor, and you behave, because if you don't behave, they'll say, oh, you're a bad Buddhist, you're not going to nirvana. In fact, you're so bad, you're infecting everybody else's ability to go nirvana, therefore we've got to cut you off from humanity. Which then leads to, yes, Buddhists did assassinate people, execute people, do a lot of dark things in the name of their faith, just like communists do now. Okay, information warfare, information tyranny. Uh, this whole idea of the chosen people from the Bible and all the ways that it has been used and misused. Okay, think about it. The Bible story tells about an original man, Adam, who had some family, descendants, which arguably ought to be the chosen people. But no, at some point there was a guy named Abraham, and it became his lineage that was chosen. And then it became uh, Isaac, Jacob, and it became the 12 tribes that were chosen. And you can see how this game goes. And various folks have identified with one or more of those 12 tribes to count them in as part of the chosen people, which is how many Christians make their linkage with the Old Testament, even though the Old Testament is the Torah is a very Jewish, a very militantly Jewish Israelite kingdom, the twin kingdom. There's Judah and Israel, the two kingdoms of the Jews, and reinterpret it in a way that gives them a tyranny of information over others. And this happens with every religion. This is why in Islam there was such a furor, and still is, over who the real successor to Muhammad is, or was, or will be. That's tyranny of information. That's wanting to use information to gain power, to control people. Okay, now in the modern age, information has come to be a much more universal and fluid thing. Information tyranny is used at all levels of society. Essentially, the advent of social media makes it possible for anybody to become an information tyrant if they know how to market their message well enough, and they can sow enough bullshit and get enough likes, shares, and subscribes to gain a following, to gain visibility. That is information tyranny. And it happens at all levels. It happens even off social media. Narcissism is, in essence, a manifestation of information tyranny. Think about it. Narcissism is convincing yourself that you are either better than other people, or you are being oppressed by other people because of XYZ. And if only blah, 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 then you would get your due. Other people would bow down to you because you're so much better, or other people would recognize your hidden virtues that have been unsung for so long. And both of those represent a tyranny of information processing. What are you doing? You're taking the information about who you are, what you're capable of, what you're doing to the people around you with your actions and words, and you are processing it to mean something completely different than it does. You're doctoring the information of your own senses to match what you want them to be saying. So the overt narcissist will doctor incoming information to be, oh, well, I do so much for those people, and all I asked for was this, and they can't even do that. And therefore, I'm fully justified in emotionally beating them up or physically beating them up. The covert narcissist lays in the shadows and says, "Oh, I slave and cook and do everything for that man, and he never appreciates it. He never shows me how much he loves me. He never shows me how worthy I am because of my unconditional love." When everybody knows that any real relationship is a two-way street. It's not all roses from one side, it's not all perfection from one side. It's a partnership between two very different individuals that are like puzzle pieces that don't quite mesh up, no matter what you do. And that's the nature of a relationship. And to the extent that people make up stories to explain why it's not their fault that things don't mesh up, that things are getting worse rather than better, they are exhibiting narcissistic behavior. Hey, Ali, what you want? Huh? Ah. Okay, just a minute. I'm busy doing podcast. I'll come soon. Bring up here. Okay? Yeah, I'm being bothered to have my daily herbal infusion from the local herbalist, which is kind of a nice feature of living in the third world. I know. I'm in the middle of my work, okay? I understand. I can't come right now. This is fun. Okay, so the behaviors that we exhibit that are narcissistic: lying, gaslighting, projection. Okay? Out and out lying, saying that something happened or something is true when you know it isn't. Well, it was just a little white lie. Sorry, lying is information tyranny. Now, it can be a little tyranny of telling a child that blah, blah, little white lie so that they stop bugging you about something like, well, you can't have that toy because we don't have money right now. When you know you've got the money in your pocket and you just don't want to buy him another toy. Yeah, that's probably not a really serious sin, is it? But it would be much better if you taught the child, I'm not buying you another toy because you had one yesterday and I told you we couldn't get another one until you'd done something to earn it. Depending on the age of the child. Age-appropriate truth is much more karmically good than lies. Now, age-inappropriate truth can be quite karmically bad, giving children information which they're too young to process, which they have no business being exposed to at a tender age when they're not able to process complex adult decisions like what sex am I, etc., etc. Now, that is information tyranny too. Using your knowledge, your range of experience to influence impressionable youth. That's information tyranny. Gaslighting. Everybody know what gaslighting is? This is where you avoid taking any responsibility for anything by making, oh, you're the one. You're the one. It's all because of you. Oh, you're attacking me because you're. And this is related to the next one, projection. When you project your sins on someone else so that you can feel scot-free. Well, I was justified in doing that because they made me angry. Okay, these are information tyranny of sorts. They are changing the truth of the moment. And the truth of the moment is essentially the information of the moment. What are some other aspects of information tyranny? Insider information. Trading on insider information is absolutely information tyranny. Using information that only you have to take advantage of others. To buy or sell stocks just before you know they're going to go up or down because of some event that you only you know about. Selling a house that you know has structural damage and so something serious wrong with it, and not telling people about it. That's information tyranny. Buying a house and not being honest about your ability to make a down payment and to make the payments. That's information tyranny. That'll get you. And I know a lot of people have fallen into that pit. And this debt crisis the world is going through is not just the fault of the banksters. It's the fault of you, information tyrannists at all levels of this debt bubble we're in the middle of. Anybody know what a Ponzi scheme? That's the ultimate information tyranny. What you do is create a false impression of success. Wow, everybody is making this much money investing in my company or my country. And look what it's produced, all these beautiful buildings, all of these high-speed rail lines, blah, blah, blah. Hurry, you got to get in on this market. The returns are fantastic, blah, 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 blah. This is the Chinese Communist Party is the biggest Ponzi scheme ever in the history of mankind. The Potemkin country they've built while sucking in funds from the rest of the world and giving almost nothing back to their own people who are slave laboring to produce all the products that they're selling based upon false advertising largely. This is extreme information tyranny. Even if it weren't for hiding genocide, hiding religious persecution, ethnic persecution, forced organ harvesting, aside from all those things, just the lying that they have done to their own people and to the rest of the world marks them as some of the biggest tyrants of all time. The biggest karmic sinners of all time. And that means, sorry, Communist Party, you're not going to atheist heaven. You are going to atheist hell. Lots of luck. Propaganda is another thing that you see a lot of these days. Either political, economic, or religious. Now, what is propaganda? Basically, it is sharing information with a spin. Even if the information is true, how you share it can cast it in a very different light. And you have only to look at the same news story carried across multiple countries, multiple left-right echo chambers to see that those spins can be quite subtle, but are definitely there. One event can elicit 20 different articles that tell the same basic story, but do it in a way that energizes a certain fan base, either for or against. This is how you've got a story like the Hunter Biden laptop and now the Hunter Biden iCloud that has been spun in such humorous ways by both sides. It's just insane. And, you know, on the right, it's being used as a blanket condemnation for everything. on the left, even, the handful of lefties that actually have their hearts in the right place, that really mean well, that actually want to do something good for the United States, damning everyone by association with this horrible cretin and his father. And yes, there are a lot of people like that in Washington, D.C. Most of the established political set on the right and the left are like that. The Pelosi's, the Schumers, the McConnells, etc. They're dirty as sin. They are all corrupted by big business and big government. And the biggest government corrupter for the last 20, 30 years is Communist China, who now basically wags the tail of the entire UN, as we saw during the pandemic, when everybody was scrambling over themselves to cover up the fact that it started in China, and it started as a result of government-funded private research into gain of function, making viruses more deadly, which is illegal. Could not be done legally in the US. DARPA actually rejected the project, saying, no, we can't fund this. So the NIH stepped in. Oh, of course, this is going to be so good for national health. Nobody's getting prosecuted. Nobody's gone down for it. Public knowledge on both sides, and it's turned into this big political football, and there are people that still think Fauci walks on water. This is really serious propaganda, serious cover-ups. Cover-ups are another form of information tyranny. Hiding your guilt, hiding your sins is a cover-up. I know it's embarrassing to have done something stupid, but if you try to hide it, that's even more stupid. Own up to what you did, take personal responsibility for dumb things, or you will pay for it in karma. That's how karma works. And I'll finish with the biggest one. Hyperbole and sensationalization in memes and content. Now, I know there are millions upon millions of people who have their dream set on becoming an internet celebrity. And the vast majority of you would sell your soul for enough likes, shares, and subscribes to get a sponsorship. Would love to have any sponsor come in and give you money for producing your content. Would sell any product on your channel if you could get a little revenue coming in from it. Now, the more responsible of you, try to keep that limited to products that and sponsors that are consistent with your message. If your message is one of, well, there's nothing you can do here, you got to prepare for apocalypse, and you're selling food kits and stuff for survival, well, I guess that's at least consistent with your message. It's not a sellout. However, it's not really free of narcissism. Because anybody who thinks, given the way things are going, that anybody's just going to be able to check out and go hide up in the mountains and survive what's coming, anybody who's sure of that is a fool. Okay, there are many ways that this all finishes up, some of which include nuclear proliferation. If you think you're going to be safe up in your mountain cabin from nuclear winter, you're a fool. If you think that you're going to be safe if the global economy collapses and you've got and governments collapse and you've got basically groups of people on a vigilante mission looking for some other groups of people to steal food from so they don't starve this year. The Mad Max future. You think you're going to be safe because you've stored up so many guns and you've got such a good bunker built up around your little cult of survival. Rot so rot. This is very narcissistic thinking. If you're checking out of this thing, thinking that, well, there's nothing I can do, I'm not going to play this game anymore, you're no better than a Buddhist. The survivalist nirvana is less noble than the Buddhist nirvana that at least thinks there's going to be something in the next life that's better than this. Granted, they don't really understand karma. They don't understand that there are many paths you can go by. There are many lives you could choose, and not one path is right for everyone. There is not one enlightenment that everybody gets to have if you just chew my favorite breakfast cereal. You see where I'm going. In fact, if you are a successful content creator, you have a large army of devoted fans, this is reason for a great deal of concern. Karmic concern. Are your fans more important than your message being true, than your information being accurate, than your perspective being broad enough to give a real picture of what's going on? Are your fans being pulled into a little echo chamber of narcissism that allows them to live in their little elitist bubble chamber and not engage with the broader conversation that humanity is having with itself as it goes through this event? And as such, I think there's a big risk for every soul incarnated today. And that's why I bring up this whole topic. There are many ways to be an information tyrant. And not all of them are as obvious as you would think. And thinking is the manifestation of consciousness. Consciousness is what we grow to advance spiritually. Our spiritual being is built upon layer of higher consciousness, higher awareness of the multiverse. If you think that you have reached the God level and you haven't been through what a real God level soul has been, you are deluding yourself. If you think just because I did an ayahuasca session and I got to see the light and I got to see what heaven's like and I got to talk to the machine elves, I'm sorry, it's not that easy. The chances of any human soul getting to the God level in one incarnation are infinitesimally small. That's why we have reincarnation. It takes a lot of lifetimes to see all the perspectives that you need to really understand things in depth, to really be able to look at a situation and know what the right thing to do, how to avoid karma, or how to minimize negative karma and maximize good karma, because karma is unavoidable. You cannot survive in physical incarnation without consuming food, without drinking water. Every time you drink water, you're drinking millions of microbes and viruses and other things that you don't even see in the water. And you kill some of them, and some of them kill you. This is the truth. You can't whitewash that. If you think some magic regimen of health and wealth and perfection is going to make you live forever, you're deluding yourself. That's the most narcissistic bubble you can be in, because it causes you to be insensitive to what you're doing in this life. Go for the gusto. Right? How many people have you heard say that? That's an irresponsible statement. It says all you care about is your own personal fulfillment, your own kicks and thrills, whatever makes you think you're enlightened, you're fulfilled. This is bad karma. This is self-deception. What you do affects other people. There is nobody that creates in a vacuum, not even gods. It's only when a god retreats to their own private universe that that's sort of possible, because if nobody wants to play with them, all of the souls that are playing in their universe are virtual souls, are basically virtual reality without any consciousness yet, except that they've been programmed to do a certain thing, to act a certain way, to fulfill the fantasy of that god. And there are a lot of gods like that, don't get me wrong. This is where all the dark gods end up. Eventually, once the souls that have been playing on their team realize what assholes they are, they stop playing with them. They go make their own universe. I don't have to play this guy's game anymore. I've got, he made me his #1 lieutenant. I'm going to go backstab him and take over his universe, except that that's not what really happens. You backstab them, and they incarnate for a while, and whoever gets to God level next gets to be the captain of that particular universe, and the master might become the servant. Or they may have their own 2 separate universes at some point. Who cares? They're going to be disconnecting from the good gods, the gods that are willing to play the game responsibly. Anyway, I think I've covered that topic pretty well. I should probably see what fun I've missed downstairs, how mad folks are at me for not going to get my medicine, but I think it's been a good short session. Until next time, like, share, subscribe, and I hope you like the Omnist Hour with Rob Trump. If you don't, well, that's karma. Take care.